back to talking the 2023 elections, and the one thing that Nigerians have been accused of not being paying a lot of attention to as a whole, not just with the elections, is data. You know, we don't even know how many we are. Yes, there's going to be a census next year, but something as basic as that is still, you know, very debated across board. And, you know, well, yes, the Bureau of Statistics does throw out a few numbers here and there over time, but data as a whole, developed countries around the world use that to work to even be better. And we're going to be talking about that now. I'm joined by the CEO of Stears, Preston Ideh. Thanks for being here today.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having
me.
So
you're working on a project towards the 2023 elections, and yes. I think it's very important because this election has, on so many levels, galvanized a lot of Nigerians. People are talking, but there's also a lot of fake information, you know, out there. People just throw out numbers. Nobody's sure of what is, and you know, how are you coming into this? Or what are the expectations, or what should the expectations be of what Stears is trying to do?
Yeah. So I think it's very simple. At our core, Stears is a data intelligence company, and so in-depth analysis is important to us, right? We're data-driven everything we do. So taking this approach to the elections means that everything we do, all our analysis or data we present, everything we visualize, we have fact-checked ourselves. We would have made choices either coming from Ideh or some other reputable body. So it's really to be that one-stop shop where people can get reliable and trusted data on the election.
So what sort of data are you trying to, or a priority for you when you're starting this? What were the things that jumped at you that you needed to sort of work on?
Yeah. So I think the first thing was definitely results. Because in the past, you had results, you know, sort of floating around, different people putting out numbers, this polling unit had been won by this candidate. So results are at the center of it. But compared to what we did before, this time around, we also focus on knowing your candidate. So many people find it difficult to know who exactly is running what.
Tell me about that.
And so if you go on to, for instance, Stears elections today, the core function that we made available as of now is really know your candidate. So you can go down to as low as like State House of Assembly and identify the relevant sort of, you know, House of Reps, Senator, Governor. We really focus on making sure it's easy to find the relevant candidate.
What about voting patterns? Because that's also something I know that, you know, maybe talking polling loosely, you know, it's also something that's very debated, even in developed countries. We saw what happened in America recently and in the past, you know, where polling numbers are put out and the results coming and it's something completely different. Is that something you're looking at? And how do you gather your data even? Because Nigeria is tough to get things like that. How do you work around that?
It is. So I think the first thing in terms of polling, we are definitely bullish on it. I think our polls will start coming out from January, and that's primarily because we want polls that are statistically significant, statistically relevant. So we do have to work on our end on methodology, make sure it's as nationally representative as possible before we put them out. But that's an area we're very big on. And in terms of where we get our data from, I mean, the first source is always INEC, right? INEC is the sort of legal, they hold the results and they essentially decide who wins an election, who doesn't. So we work very closely with INEC, but also get information from other sources as well, like reputable sources, and we do our analysis ourselves. So a combination of these different methods allow us to actually pull our data
How do you
together.
poll?
So, I mean, there are two primary ways right now. So
without giving away too much, because I know you don't
Most of the polling companies today, they use telephone polling. Yes. That's it. So you have a sort of database of telephone register of Nigerians, you call them up, but before that, they do a lot of work to ensure that the demographic is as representative as possible. So making sure they're calling people in Ogun State and Ondo State. Our approach is actually online driven as well. So we build a panel, and that is, we spend time recruiting people from different parts of the country onto a panel and then keep asking them questions over a period of time. So that allows us to sort of watch trends. So if, for instance, you're asking, you know, doctors before the election, what are you thinking, who are you going to vote? And then after 2 weeks, they're doing something else. It allows you to see those trends. So it's really a combination of telephone and online polling, but you have to do some offline recruitment. That's very important.
I was going to talk about that because people have said, you know, yes, mobile penetration is quite deep in Nigeria, but there's a huge number of people who you can't just call up and poll. You know, how does the offline part work? Do you go door to door? Do you just approach people on the road?
So we use partners for that. So we're working with a couple of polling partners across the country. But I think one thing to emphasize as well is it depends on the demographic you're talking about. Young people, 18 to 35, a lot of us are really just internet-enabled, right? So if you were looking for the sort of perception of young people, you might succeed more with online polling in a way you wouldn't if you're looking for like 65 to 80-year-old. So it really does depend, and we are focused on that 18 to 35 segment.
I just need to ask all of that because people can tend to question polls a lot. So it's important that we know that, you know, the background is. But in your conversation so far, what do you get from Nigerians that is at stake at these elections? You know, what are Nigerians most concerned about?
I mean, so definitely the biggest issue on most people's minds right now is this duopoly being broken, right? Moving from just two political parties to a sort of, in the past we used to call it third force, but now people are looking at it as, the third party that is actually growing in terms of momentum. That is pretty big. But I think when you look at data, there are also other trends. For instance, compared to 2019, we have about 10 million more registered voters. Now, I know there are lots of questions about the voter registration and, where that will land, but that's one trend. We've also seen young people specifically, like under 35. In 2019, compared to 2019 rather, we've probably had about 8 to 10% fewer people actually running that are under 35. So people who have tickets at the primary primary level, right? But also when we look at like youth and women participation in politics, those trends they're not impressive yet, but we still have some time before we eventually see the final numbers after general election. But I think those are interesting trends that are already showing up right now. All
right, very quickly now, you mentioned INEC as a source. Why should I check out Stears if I can just go to INEC? What's the difference? So what are you offering different?
Two things at the core of what we're doing, right? The first is visualization and second, accessibility. So in visualization, if you get onto our site, the first thing you notice is maps, right? Lots of interactive visualizations, meaning you can click on a map and keep going down until you get to the local government area. It's really granular, right? And we found that makes it very easy for people to actually understand. So when you see colors, blue, red, you're able to easily understand the trend, unlike, sort of the other ways that it's being displayed in sort of on the INEC website. The other thing is accessibility. Nigeria is very mobile heavy right now. In our previous election center, we saw about 98% of the 2 to 3 million users were on their mobile phones. So this time around, we sort of built mobile first. So you can actually access the elections through our mobile app, right? And that just changes the game because it means it's, at your fingertips. You don't need to be sort of sitting in front of TV. You can get it on the go. And of course, you can share that among other people as well.
Yeah. Anything surprise you so far in your data collection from what Nigerians have sort of talked about, or anything jump at you?
Yes, I think one trend that really caught me off guard was just the amount of turnover at the National Assembly. So we're seeing about 70% turnover. So we have new members of House of Reps.
It's going to be an almost brand new house.
Exactly right, because at primary level already turnover is about 53 or 54%, right? So a lot of new people are really coming in, right? And then you see another trend with sort of the governors where there are about 28, gubernatorial elections coming up. About 17 of them are new governors, right? And then when you look at where the governors are going, they're heading towards the Senate. Right, so you see, finish my 2 terms and then head towards Senate. So some interesting trends there we'll find, and I think they're really going to play out as we get to the election.
Very important to know that people hear elections, I just think it's the presidential election. There's a lot of elections happening, guys. Yes. The state assembly, there's national assembly, there's governorship elections, and of course the presidential election. So don't just focus on these people who you keep talking about on social media. There's a lot of candidates to know. How do we get this data from Stears if we need to find them?
Very simple. Just go on to stears.co/election or 2023elections.ng, and you'll be able to find everything you need on there.
On social media?
Yes, we're on social media as well. Stears Insights, so that's STEARS, and Insights, that's on Twitter, and you can find us on Instagram as well.
Thank you very much. I'm a huge fan of polls, even though they're very disappointing a lot. There are people who always tell me, stop looking at polls. I mean, I feel like it just gives a bit of an insight. It doesn't mean I believe them 100%, but it kind of shows you, where things are going.
Hopefully we'll have some polls to show you as well.
I'm looking forward to all the data, of course, besides the polling that you've been doing. And good luck with everything, man. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you very much, Erika.